Within a process, there are two types of variation: common cause variation and special cause variation. Common cause variation is that inherent natural variation. We use standard deviation to measure that variation or spread of our data. If our data is normally distributed, we can go back to that standard normal curve where plus and minus 3 standard deviations from the mean represent 99.7% of the process variation. That is pictured here on the bottom of this slide. We can measure stability and track stability using control charts. Here is an example of an X-bar and R chart. They are two separate charts. The top chart is the X-bar or sample mean. The bottom chart is the R chart or sample range. So in this particular case, our sample size is small, less than 5. Therefore, you can see our upper control limit and lower control limit for each of those. They are based on standard deviations. You can also see no specific or identifiable pattern to the data. This represents the common cause variation, that natural bouncing around within the plus and minus 3 standard deviations of the mean. Here is an example of the process capability 6-pack. You can see, starting in the upper left is the X-bar chart that we just referred to, as well as the R chart just below that. The next graph represents subgroups. On the upper right, you'll see the capability histogram. Remember, histogram is for continuous data. Our bars touch. It also has on that the upper and lower specification limits. Be very careful not to confuse specification limits, which are defined by the customer, versus control limits, which are defined by the process using standard deviation. The middle chart on the right is a normality plot, making sure or ensuring that our data fits the normal curve. Next is the capability plot using CP and CPK, and as well as PP and PPK. In this session, we talked about process capability. We measure process capability using CP and CPK for short term and PP and PPK for long term. We can use both variable data as well as attribute data for capability. We also talked about different monitoring techniques that we use for a process to make sure that it maintains its capability or stays within those customer specification ranges.